So future mother-in-law calls future father-in-law while at the airport in big Asian city. She has some health issues and has a doctor appointment, so she wanted to come back. Future father-in-law has only an occasional wooden, termite-riddled spine. Now, for context, my major metropolitan area has at least one, if not 5 airports within a certain radius. She chose to land at an airport near ME as opposed to her own family, which prompted a desperate call from future husband, now ex, begging me to pick up his mother. In hindsight, kids, I'm an idiot, but I had future husband's SUV and he had my sedan, so I thought it was a killing 2 birds, 1 stone situation. After idiotically agreeing to pick up future mother-in-law, I get to the airport to find that she has her niece in tow. Something didn't sit right with me, even though I know future husband has multiple cousins back home. So everyone loads up into the car, and we begin the 120-minute trek to the IL's house. I used my super broken major Asian language to make pleasantries for a few minutes before I tell them to rest after their long flight. Rest? No. These two are having a rapid fire-hushed conversation in the back seat. My spidey senses are tingling. You know how questions can be more or less determined in context when listening to a tonal language? The niece's cousin was just shooting off question after question, but it was too fast for me to pick out more than a word or two. I sent a text to future husband asking about the niece's cousin. He's just as confused as I am, calls father-in-law, then I hear him calling his mother. Y'all, I can't. I cannot. Even writing this out is making me literally laugh with tears of anger, and most of the anger is because I need to replace my brand new phone. Future father-in-law knew this was not niece cousin. This woman was brought halfway across the world to marry my fiance. This is why future husband psych dials his mother. Future father-in-law never told future husband. Future husband is trying to call me too, but I have this shitty policy of not answering while I'm driving. Just as we're passing a shopping center, I know the future mother-in-law absolutely loves. She pipes up and asks if we can stop. Your hero, not knowing what was going on, obliges. Figuring I could stretch my legs and call future husband back to see what was going on, we turned in, park, and future mother-in-law and niece cousin disappear into the mall. At this point, I call future husband back. Can you guess what happened, my dear llamas? You guessed correctly. My idiot fiance tells me his mother has brought him a wife, but that I should keep calm until they get home and we can all talk this out. Cousin niece wife knows he is engaged, but only to a Muslim terrorist, so it's not a big deal. Through the window, I see mother-in-law walking around and just piling things on this cousin's wife. On the other end, I have my spineless fiancé telling me to bring his mother and this woman, who knows he is engaged but chose to fly across the world, home. Something snapped. I hung up, grabbed my heck out of the car, walked into the store, shoved my ring on future mother-in-law's fat, stubby finger, handed her the car keys, and walked out. LOL, no, just kidding. I did none of that. Instead, I started ugly crying in the middle of the parking lot. Waited like a giant baby until the duo came back piled high with a small country's per capita GDP of shopping, and sullenly drove them the rest of the way back like the good chauffeur I was born to play. As we near home, this terrorist of a woman asked me to stop for food. I suddenly go deaf despite her screeching. We pull into their driveway and future husband is pacing nervously while future father-in-law is clearly chain-smoking a year's worth of cancer sticks. Now for the explosion. Instead of greeting me, his fiancé, he immediately goes to help this niece cousin future wife. I'm just in shock still and don't really process what's going on. As they're getting everything out of the car, I snap for real. Future mother-in-law is talking mad crap on me. This bitch can't even say thank you. And she's using her broken English so nice wife cousin doesn't understand. I'm quietly and off to the side because mama didn't raise no hoodlum, raging on future husband who is not stopping her. Y'all know when you hit the point where you just don't want to deal with it anymore. This is what happens. I'm done. I'm actually done. This man is doing nothing to stop his mother from calling me a dumb whore, which, whatever lady, whores get paid, and seems more concerned about wife, cousin, niece. Future husband is hurriedly whispering for me to behave. So I walked up to this woman, went to shake her hand and slipped my damn beautiful ring right on her finger. This time for real. My spare car key is in my purse and my car is in the driveway. So, off I go, after making sure to back up over their bags. Husband is pounding on my door, so I literally throw my phone out the window and drive off. 300% done. All of it. Just done. Now I'm home to a dozen emails from ex-fiance asking for me to call him. I just wrote back telling him to leave me alone, filtered all his emails to spam, and deactivated my one social media profile. Somebody said in the comment below, "Holy hell, you are a badass." Also, pro tip, Halo Top or Enlightened ice cream are these amazingly delicious low-calorie ice creams, anywhere from 240 to like 380 calories for a whole pint. So you can indulge guilt-free in some good post-breakup sweets. Also, if you're feeling wine, Apothic is such a good brand and they have a great selection. Sorry, I love some good wine and food when I'm stressed or sad, so I love to pass on the love. La la la. But seriously, I admire your strength to just walk away from a situation like that. I'm glad you have some great siblings to give you some support and distractions. Hopefully getting your stuff won't be too chaotic, but hey, that's what this sub is for, venting and support. So we're here if you need a listening ear. Update. When we last left off, my future ex-mother-in-law had brought home an import wife for my ex-fiance. Friend referenced below is ex's best friend. He is my FM. He has hated ex-in-laws since childhood. I've moved on to cutting myself out of the larger friend group as some people think I overreacted, and I asked them not to take a side until they knew everything. Import bride is going back to homeland next week. She's still here. According to friend, ex-Emael and the import are thick as thieves. So save your pity for this girl. She knew what she was walking into. She is also wearing my ring. Friend made a shitty comment to her, and the girl denied that it was my, very custom, ring. Whatever. Next. Now the real good crap. This week has been hell. Sorry if this is disjointed, it's pieced together from what friend has updated me on and what has happened to me. Ex-mother-in-law called the cops to report her son's car stolen. She barely speaks English. The first two sets of cops did not take her seriously and she struck gold with the third set. I got a visit to my work. She doesn't know where I live, but she knows where I work. By the police, and it was embarrassing as all crap. The cops had a repo truck there too. It was a mess that took a few hours to sort out since these cops were aggressive assholes about it. Why were they aggressive assholes? Because ex-mother-in-law has a black eye, WTF. She told them I punched her out and stole the car. Friend is adamant that ex-husband knew nothing of this plan. Ex would know what an assault charge would mean for my career. Bad things. Many bad things. I set the cops straight with all the emails, voicemails, etc. and gave them friend's contact info. Now the cops in our cities know what is going on, so at least that's a relief if she decides to keep escalating. Which she probably will because I won and she lost. Edit. It's a brand new car with no plates, so it's a little trickier to run ownership. At this point, I had only owned the car for 7 to 10 days. So, and I am really assuming here, that the first two sets of cops lost interest when she didn't have a black eye and proof of ownership. Then, and again, assumption, the third set of LEOs decided that this poor, hysterical, abused, sweet, innocent immigrant woman had been taken advantage of. I am again assuming her story changed in the 48 hours or so this all took place, and I am scratching my head about the black eye. I think perhaps she fell or gave it to herself. She, of course, had my full name, a photograph, and my place of work to make it easy for them to find me. Friend verified the black eye. She was sneaking around avoiding him, perhaps to avoid him getting a good look at her face. On top of this madness, yesterday I received a demand letter from in-laws' attorney. It was over 4 pages long, and I really hope they enjoyed paying the lawyer to write it, since now I'm just going to turn this into a billing war for them. I've written a first no-contact letter and sent it registered mail. They and their lawyers have received it. 3 no-contact letters and breaches, then I can file for harassment. Ex-mother-in-law has also found how to contact my mother, and that didn't end so well for ex-mother-in-law. My mother didn't tell me until late last night, despite this taking place earlier in the week. Apparently, I'm a thieving stripper. The conversation taxed the limits of her English skills, and according to my sister-in-law, the last 4 minutes of the call was essentially her ranting in her native language, while my mom screamed back in our native language. Edit. I realized ex-mother-in-law was on a text chain with my mother. This was over a year ago. That fact had completely slipped my mind. Ex-mother-in-law went to our wedding vendors to cancel the wedding. It has already been canceled. Then when she discovered that I beat her to the punch, she tried to use the deposits for cousin wife niece. 2 of the vendors had yet to initiate the refund on the deposits, and one of the vendor's assistants didn't understand what was going on and gave ex-mother-in-law the deposit refund check. I got a frantic call early in the morning from the vendor, then made a call straight to friend. Yesterday, friend swung by ex-in-law's house, which is how he saw Ring and got some other info, and retrieved the check from ex-father-in-law. Apparently, ex-father-in-law has major regrets about the whole situation. I told friend the man should have major regrets about his whole life. Ex-father-in-law handed over the check without a fight. Friends updates. Ex-mother-in-law is cooking something up. She was walking around the house muttering to herself. The import looks like death. She has been crying daily, but clearly they've been shopping away their sadness. Ex-father-in-law seems removed from the situation, and not a one of them has heard from ex all week. He spoke to friend once in an attempt to get through to me and flipped when he heard about the cop situation. So good for him, I guess, for deciding to have a spine, but too little too late. Edit. Friend just texted me, so hasn't showed up to work, hasn't been back to his condo, and isn't answering calls. I'm now torn between caring and not caring.
My wife and I have always tried to keep the housework pretty evenly split between us. I, for example, mow the lawn and do laundry and dishes, and she meal plans, cooks, and picks up or drops off the kids. Lately, this has all changed because she has become addicted to a game called Dress to Impress on Roblox. If you aren't familiar, it's a game where you have to dress your character in a themed outfit before the time runs out, and the other players rate it from 1 to 5 stars. It started off harmless, just a fun thing she would do during downtime before bed, but recently she has missed crucial appointments and chores because of this game. I tried to be understanding and gently remind her to do her tasks, but she would always say she forgot or got distracted. The big argument happened last night when she forgot to pick up our 9-year-old son from basketball practice, which ended at 6. I hadn't gotten home yet as I had to work late, and our son doesn't have a phone, so I had no way of knowing the situation. I eventually got home around 7 and realized he was not in his room. I looked around further and saw that he was nowhere to be found. I walked into our bedroom, confused, to ask my wife where he was, and found her on her iPad playing the game as always. When I asked her where our son was, her eyes grew wide, and I knew what happened without her having to say. I immediately got back into my car and went to pick him up. Luckily, his coach had stayed after to make sure he was picked up safe, and I apologized profusely. Apparently, he had been calling and texting my wife, who was the emergency contact, and she didn't even notice. When we got home, I immediately blew up at her. How could she be so addicted to a kid's game that she completely forgot our son? Now, she's telling me it was a one-time thing and that I'm an asshole for getting angry. I don't know what to think. I do kind of understand her side of the story as it has only happened one time, but she has to be a responsible parent. She can't just completely forget about our child who has no way to get home on his own. So, am I the hole? Relevant comments, commenter 1, not the a-hole. This isn't a chore she's blowing off. This is forgetting your own child. How could she not even notice the calls and texts from the coach? That's what I'm wondering about. Is something else going on with her? Original poster responded, I'm not entirely sure how she missed all off the messages and phone calls from the coach. We haven't spoken much since the argument. I haven't noticed anything different with her, but I could be missing things. Commenter 2, hey, is her iPad hooked up to her iPhone? Because if it is, then your wife willfully ignored the messages and calls. Those things are shown on any Apple device hooked to the same accounts: iPhone, iPad, MacBook. Also, I would remove your wife from every emergency contact or add yourself with a note requiring they notify you both. Original poster responded, I think the other replies are right. She had her iPad on silent. Still, I feel like she would have seen the notifications. Anyway, I texted the coach to add my number to the emergency contact list, so hopefully nothing like this will happen again. Commenter 3. Is this real? She needs therapy if she is so addicted to a silly kids game with avatars that she is forgetting her own real child. This is a scary and serious event for your kid. And okay, maybe losing track of time but missing the calls and texts too? That's insane. Not the whole. Hope your kid is okay. He probably felt so scared and abandoned. Original poster responded, thanks for your concern. I'm planning on talking to her tomorrow morning because we'll have had a day to cool off and think it over. I talked to my son in the car after the original event, and he seemed okay from my perspective. Obviously a little afraid and confused, but nothing that should impact him in the long run. I'll continue to be checking up on him and making sure though. Commenter 4. Be worth getting one of those phones that can only dial certain numbers for your son and change the emergency contacts to yourself and another trustworthy adult within acceptable distance from your area, just till she proves herself and stays off the game. Original poster responded, good idea. I might look into a flip phone or something similar. I just don't want to give him free rein on the internet so young. So this'll probably be a good solution. Commenter. Not the whole, but I have questions. Does your wife work? What time does she get home? How does your kid get home when he doesn't have practice? How many kids do you have? Who normally makes dinner and when do you all eat? I'm struggling to understand how this could happen. Original poster responded, she works part-time and usually gets home around 2. We only have one kid. He gets home on the school bus when there's no practice. She in the past has been the one in charge of cooking and food, but recently I have started to do this because of the events in the post. We usually eat around 6:30. Update. Hi everyone, thank you for all your advice on my previous post. So, I decided to have a conversation with my wife the day after I made the post about the time spent on video game. We talked for a while, and I tried to bring up important things people talked about in the comments. I saw a lot of people suggesting that I completely block and delete Roblox from her devices, and I brought that up. Obviously, she didn't take that well. I told her it's completely unacceptable what she has been doing, and there needs to be at least a time limit set on her device. I can't control her, but I made it clear it's a very important thing to me, and it would damage our relationship if she said no. After I said this, she agreed to the time limits. Another thing I saw a lot in the comments was concern for my wife's mental health. I appreciate people's insight into this, because it's something I don't really have a lot of experience in. I asked her if she would consider seeing a therapist, and she said she would think about it. People were also concerned about how my son is feeling after all this. I didn't realize that it was something that may have an impact on him. I had a conversation with him and made sure he understood his mom, and I love and care for him, and that nothing like this would ever happen again. I also have ordered him a cheap flip phone so he wouldn't be completely stranded alone if these events did end up repeating. If there's anything I should do or could do differently regarding my son, please let me know, because I don't exactly know how to navigate this situation. I don't want to be too harsh on my wife. We love each other, and it's been made more clear after our talk that this should not be a marriage ending or cause any lasting damage. If anyone has any further advice or thoughts, I will be happy to read it. Thank you. Top comments. Commenter 1. From my experience, it can be hard to quit an addictive behavior like this, so she needs to be really committed and willing to try and fail quite a few times before really getting into a new groove. I personally can't just do something addictive a little bit, or have timers. I just have to quit it altogether before the compulsion obsession disappears. The other thing to watch for is switching. So she drops the Roblox, but starts playing Candy Crush or drinking, etc. If you're looking for some more information on addiction, Gabormate is a good beginning, and his addiction was classical music rather than a substance. Another resource you might like is Johann Hari Stolen Focus, how big tech deliberately designs software devices, etc., to be dopamine-driven and addictive. If you guys can stick with it, and persist in pushing through the other side, what she might experience is a period of boredom, frustration, irritability, then gradually start to feel more normal and enjoy life again. Hope you all do well. Commenter 2. Also another point, you don't have to be harsh on your wife, but you should be firm. I like the concept of responsible compassion. You love the person, you sit with their feelings, but they're still held accountable for their behavior and choices. When they fail, you're there, but you expect them to try again, and you hold reasonable boundaries. Commenter 3. It's really good that you talked and that she seems to have heard you. My question is, does she work outside the home? Perhaps having a job would help her not be so obsessed with this or any other game, even a part-time job that gets her out of the house and around people. Maybe that would help a lot. Perhaps being home alone so much made it too easy to get too involved in gaming. As to your son, if she hasn't grasped how serious that was, she really should get some treatment. What she did could have caused long-term trauma to him. Abandonment issues and feelings that his mom doesn't want him around. Not saying he feels this way, but he could. You did great by talking to him and reassuring him, but did she? Good luck.